What's going on? Welcome to Third Coast Sports TV. I'm your host, Wink, and I'm going to give you my top 10 list of teams who had the best drafts on top of eight honorable mentions. It took me a while to get this video up because I really went back and looked at where a lot of teams. This what's good? What's good? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, man. I was just it just took a little bit, man. I was trying to get this damn list together, man, because it was really hectic when I really went back to go look, and a lot of teams did very well, and I just wanted to be able to give you know, the teams their due diligence. So, what's going on, B Shell? Yeah, I just did another stream, man. Make sure you go check that one out. Go plan on doing round table later on tonight with Honcho if he gets that set up, and I'll hop in that shit with him today. And I guess we're gonna end up giving our thoughts about this draft. I'm gonna wait for a few of y'all to come on in here. When y'all come in here, y'all hit that like button, man. Yeah. Hey, Wise, let everybody in the chat know I'm doing another live stream because I didn't put it in there, and I don't know if it sent out the notifications. All right, appreciate it, homie. Let me bust that mod status. Let me go on, hold on, let me see. I got you. You're a mod now. Berkeley got his wrench. Y'all, you get on your duties, man. Make sure they liking the goddamn stream and shit. Who was the best receiver in the draft? Uh, Calvin really. It's a lot of dudes that were out there that were pretty good though. A lot of dudes were out there. Chark, um, he was probably the second best. DJ Moore was probably after him, but I think really and Chark were the best too. I like Kiki Cucci for the Texans. I like Kazir White. Um, just a few guys, man. What's going on, Robbie G? I didn't see who we drafted yet in the late rounds. Yeah, videos and stuff up on I just did a video that you can check out, and I just named everybody, and it's in the description box to each round and where they were picked. I can't believe how many videos I've watched of people saying rankings amazing pick for us. He's not good, bro. That's just dude that that's just dudes gassing up Houston. They just gassing us up. Put the link in the round table. All right, hold on, give me a second. I don't think I can. You probably gonna have to. You put it in there. What do you think about Peter? Peter who? Oh, okay. All right, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. Peter who? So we signed a couple of bums in undrafted free agency. You must have went ahead and did a little bit more due diligence and make sure y'all like the stream, man. Hey, did Honcho say anything in the chat about round table tonight? I know he mentioned it way earlier, but I know he ain't getting no time. Y'all let me know if he said anything. I'm gonna wait till there's 10 people get in here. 8 p.m. All right, cool. Cause I'm all right central. All right, cool. So I got plenty of time. I'm gonna probably try to make this like a 20, maybe 30 minute video. I'm not gonna try to lag over, so I can go ahead and make a phone call and do some shit that I gotta do before we hop in the round table. But everyone giving me hell. I think Akins is a badass tight end. Trust me. No, he's not. We've already done the tape. Stop looking at highlight videos to show the good, never the bad. If you want to see his tape, go look at his FS. Go look at his UCF tape against other teams. And and half of them videos you watch with Atkins was shit that he did was a compilation of shit that he did last year and this year. So I wouldn't read too much into these highlight videos and shit that you watching because he missed the ball and everybody knows it, including Radio 610 along with everybody else. They just milking the hell out of Texans fans and making you think it was a good pick when it really wasn't. It ain't different. No, he isn't different. Yeah, Watson can do what he needs to do. He's not even gonna be on the field because he's not gonna outperform anybody else. The only reason why he's gonna get on the field, period, is if he brings him on as the third tight end, and I don't see him outplaying anybody. And he just had a fresh injury. Y'all do know he's coming off a fresh injury, right? And he has to rehab that, go into training camp, learn the playbook, and outplay other guys on this roster, which I know he will not be able to do. So I'm not big on him. If y'all big on him, kudos to y'all. I mean, I'm not gonna be wrong. I don't have to worry about no crow. I don't mind eating crow if it end up happening. But I guarantee you, just like Mattress Mac, it ain't gonna happen. All right, there's 10 people in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my list of the teams that the top 10 list of the teams, and it's not gonna be in any particular order because that was gonna be way too hard, and it would have been like another hour had I done that. And y'all make sure y'all like the stream. You a new moderator, make sure you on your job, man. These are some of the teams I kind of just went down in order. So these were the teams that I felt that did the best in this year's NFL draft. I had Atlanta. I had Baltimore. I had Cleveland. I had Denver. I had Green Bay. I had Jacksonville. I had Miami. I had New England. And I had the Giants and the Redskins. They had the best drafts to me. When you really back and you go look at the amount of value that they were able to accumulate, and because all of these teams did their due diligence on these players, and they didn't. Some of them, a couple of teams, they had a couple of reaches, and I have 8 honorable mentions. It was to these. I feel these teams needed to be mentioned because they had some pretty good drafts too. They almost could have cracked the top 10, but I just felt like the top 10 was solid enough. And when I really went back and looked at the Redskins honestly have the best draft. Them and the Giants and New England and a couple of other teams. They had like the best drafts. But honestly, I think the Redskins hands down had the best draft along with the Giants, which is absolutely crazy considering the fact that we got to play the NFC East this year. And they were like the where's my sheet? Where's my little sheet? My little sheet, so I can go ahead. Yeah, the fact that guys that Washington was able to get Deron Payne in the first round at pick 13, it was a little bit of a reach, but not really that much. And considering the fact that they just got Jonathan Allen last year, I can see right now they want to be able to pressure dudes and make sure that guys like Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley, and I think they really moved up to go get him because not Deron Payne. What is this? Vita Vita Vea. No, it was Deron Payne. Yeah, it was Deron Payne. Yeah, I want to go back and just check that. No. Vita Vea went to Tampa Bay. What am I talking about? Yeah, Deron Payne. I understand the reason why. I understand the reasoning totally for wanting to get Deron Payne and being next to Jonathan Allen because if they have to kick Jonathan Allen on the outside and they need better run defense because they're tired of getting abused up the middle. The last like 3 years, the Redskins been getting abused up the middle, and they couldn't protect the edges and play action plays and things like that have been killing them. And the fact that it's going to help their linebacking core, as limited as they are. They'll probably be able to get a whole lot more pass rush. They'll definitely have a lot of more TFLs and pressures this season with having guys like Strowman, having guys like Troy Apke, Christian, and now they got Juice running the ball. So it was crazy. Yeah. They wanted Via Veda. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but they ended up getting Deron Payne, who was a great value. But they reached on him, like I said, just a little bit, but not really too much. It wasn't as worse as the Davenport pick. And not that Davenport wasn't a great prospect and he's going to be a great edge defender. It's just the fact that they gave up entirely too much to move up to go get him when I think he would have been there had they just stayed put. But the Giants. The Giants had a great fucking draft. Um, when I redid this list and I looked at it, I I didn't really even realize like how great these fucking drafts would go. I had to scratch off two. I had to scratch Cincinnati off of the list, and I had to scratch the Chargers off of the list. Like they're they're part of my honorable mentions, and I'm gonna go ahead and get those now. So for any other fans who don't happen to be Texans fans and joining this stream for the first time, I appreciate it. The honorable mentions that I gave out were the Chargers. Philadelphia had a great draft. Oakland in the later rounds ended up having a much better draft. Early on, they were tripping. They were reaching for dudes all over the place. But when you really go look at their back end picks, they got way better. Seattle had a decent draft, and Tampa Bay had a great draft. Indianapolis had a good draft when I went back and looked at it, considering the fact that they got who was that? Nick Chubb? Wasn't it? No, that wasn't Nick Chubb. Um, Naeem Hines. That's what I'm tripping about. Naeem Hines, along with they showed up that offensive line to make sure that Andrew Luck ass is on the field. The Packers made the cut. The Packers are one of the top my top 10 teams. They're one of the top 10 teams that I named that had the one of the best drafts. So they're part of they cracked the top 10. I don't have any particular order, but I'm gonna put in the description box the players that I feel are gonna end up making a good impact once I finish this live stream and edit the video a little bit more. Tennessee had a good draft and Cincinnati had a good draft, so it was like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight teams that I felt that had very solid drafts that were debatable being in the top 10. It just depends on how you view specific players and where they were picked. Um, the next team I wanted to get into because I just touched on Washington. I wanted to get to the Giants. I'm just looking for my little sheet that I had. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the Giants getting Barkley was huge. What's your take on the course pick on who? What's on the what's your take on the course pick? Or did you think we were going to draft John Kelly? Who the hell is John Kelly? You mean Jermaine Kelly? No, I didn't, and he's a bum anyway. So absolutely not. The Texans didn't crack this list at all. They had one of the worst drafts in the league this year. I'll end up probably going doing another video because this is the best drafts, and I'll end up doing a team who the teams who had the worst drafts, and the Texans are definitely gonna be on that list for many reasons. Um, but back to the New York Giants, the fact that they went out and got Saquon Barkley was major. The fact that they got Evan Ingram, Odell, and if they end up locking Odell up, and they had already got what's his face in the off season Solder, even though he's a little older. I got the Bucks, and the Bucks definitely cracked the top 10. No, they didn't crack the top 10. They cracked it. They were my honorable mentions, but they were real high on my honorable mentions. They are definitely a team who did a great job. Um, the fact that they went out and they got Barkley, they already got Solder. They went out and got Will Hernandez in the second round. Then they grabbed fucking Lorenzo Carter in the third round. That shit was ridiculous. They got a backup plan in La Luetta in one of the later rounds, and they ended up getting B.J. Hill later on. I want to say in like the fifth round or something like that. As a D tackle. And I think they're pretty solid across the board, and they just added and bolstered the things that they really needed to. The only concern for their team, for me, is really their linebacking core. They don't really have the edge rushers, and I'm not sure um, if they really did anything to take up for JPP's spot. That's gonna end up being a hole. So I think edge is still pretty much gonna be a concern for them, but I don't think you're gonna be able to run up the gut on them, which is what I really think they really want, considering the fact they got Geis. Now they have Ezekiel Elliott, and now you got and they got Barkley. So they doing what they can, and they don't want Philly to be running rampant on them either. So their internal pressure is gonna end up being good, and I think they gonna end up having a lot of getting a lot of pressure on teams like the Cowboys, and they'll be able to contend with Philly as long as they quarterback play and they coaching staff implements a good team for Eli Manning. The next one of the next teams I got New England. Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michelle were real big for them. Those were real big moves, and considering the fact that they got some more protection for Brady, and they just picked up Trent. What was his name? I can't remember I can't remember his name. That they ended up trading. That they just did a couple of days ago. I want to say it was the second day of the draft. It was a bit of a reach, but honestly, what he's going to be able to do for that football team is ridiculous coming out of the back end. So his talent is going to speak. They did. I think they've reached a little bit. You know, they could have waited till the second round, but honestly, if they would have waited till the second round, I don't think they would have got Duke Dawson, who was my very next pick on the list for them, because he's gonna boast and he's gonna give them a different type of attitude in that secondary, and I think he'll be a complimentary piece to Stephon Gilmore. Um, One of the next teams I got Cleveland. Cleveland early on was just having a phenomenal ass draft. I think it ended up tailing off later on in the draft, but like Denzel Ward getting picked up and Chubb getting picked up. I mean not Chubb. Yeah, Nick Chubb getting picked up in round two. Austin Corbett and Antonio Callaway. I think Antonio Callaway is going to end up being like a fourth option, unless they figure out what how they want to mold a receiving core, since they got two viable options at quarterback now. I would have put on Baker Mayfield, but he was one of the bigger reaches in the draft. And honestly, if they wanted Baker Mayfield, they could have moved back. I don't really think a team was going to jump them on trying to go get Baker Mayfield. I don't really think that that was going to be a case. The next team I got is the Denver Broncos, and I'm out here in Denver, so that shit crazy. They went out and they had got Bradley Chubb at pick five to go along with Von Miller, and that shit right there is just is. And they still have guys like Shane Ray. They still got Derek Wolf. You know, guys who are still suitable options. Um, I forgot who they had as D tackles, and I'm not sure if they're gonna end up staying a 3-4 or 4-3, but it really won't matter. Um, these two dudes are gonna be able to wreak havoc, and if he ends up learning a little bit more technique from Vaughn, then that's gonna be probably one of the top three tandems in the league in terms of pass rush over the next 4 to 5 years. Um, I like the Denzel Ward pick. I mean, not the Denzel Ward. I'm tripping. I'm on Denver. I like the Sutton pick in the second round. I really like that pick. I like the Hamilton pick in the fourth round, and I definitely like them getting the Fumagalli pick. I really think they picked up a lot of receivers for the simple fact they don't know what they want to do. If they want to let Emmanuel Sanders go, just give him one last year, and let him and Demarius Thomas coach up some of these younger receivers that they brought in, or if they just want to go ahead and say sayonara to them and go ahead and implement these some new blood inside their lineup. The next team I got Green Bay. The Alexander pick and that Josh Jackson pick. I think that pick needed to happen, especially considering the fact um, the Vikings are really picking their stock up. And the Vikings got a lot of viable options, you know, in Stephon Diggs and Thielen. Dalvin Cook is coming back. So they're going to need run support on top of good coverage, you know, and playing better in zone. And I think if they really can find a way to really implement a pass rush, because their pass rush honestly is getting a lot older, it would have benefited them. And my logic for them getting so many corners in this draft is because there were so many of them, and they probably feel like it's going to be a shitload of pass rushers and interior D linemen to come out for next year's draft. So I mean, they want to get younger in certain areas, so why not get younger in the secondary? Um, the next team I got is Atlanta. Atlanta had a nice ass draft. I love really being paired up with Julio. You still got Muhammad Sanu, and you still got guys like Austin Hooper, and you got fucking guys like, and then you got Coleman and Devontae Freeman running out of the backfield, and you got Matt Ryan throwing the ball, who's highly accurate. I mean, will he choke? Yeah, he will. You know what I'm saying? He sometimes he has a fucking brain for it. And he be all over the place. So sometimes he just can't get it done. But how about Carolina getting Dante Jackson from the front? That was a good pick for them. That was a good pick for them. But honestly, they reached. They've been reaching the last few years, and just we're gonna get Mayfield. I mean, I don't see why. Sam Darnold was the much better option. Sam Darnold was the type of the quarterback that they needed. I don't think Baker Mayfield would have been him being in New York and shit like that. I don't think that would have panned out for him. I think him being somewhere with less distractions and the fact that Cleveland really is in the city and the fact that Baker Mayfield has like man, they got Josh Gordon, they got Landry now, they got Njoku, they got Duke Johnson. Now they got Nick Chubb and Tyrod Taylor. I mean, it's a lot of guys. Yeah, Isaiah Oliver over Jackson. Um, I'm not sure. You really can either way you want to go it. It's really what you value. But honestly, if we're talking about playmaking ability, I'm gonna say Josh Jackson all day. But if we just gonna talk about a disruptive uh, cornerback, then I would just say Isaiah Oliver. I want to say Josh Jackson was faster and he's got the better ball skills, but Oliver has some technique and he has the length to really get in the midst of plays. And Dante Jackson is cool. Sam Darnold destined to be a star since they passed on him. I think so. I think Darnold gonna end up being all right for the Giants. I mean for the Jets. I'm sure. Dante Jackson the fastest, just because he the fastest. I don't really care if you the fastest corner because that's been disproven by dudes like Chris Harris Jr., Talib, Richard Sherman, and other guys. Being the fastest means absolutely nothing. And it doesn't mean anything. I mean, 40 times and that shit is cool. It's cool if you can, if you're 40 times. What I care about is if you being able to track the plays, and I care about your recovery time. If you can recover and you get beat on the route and you can recover in time to break up the plays, that's the type of speed that I care about. I don't really care about straight line speed like that, especially for a cornerback because it's not suited for you anyway. A 40 times speed is only going to benefit you only on one route, and that's a nine route. Outside of that, you're not going to see no true 40 time on any other route than a nine route. Josh Rosen in Arizona, I didn't like that. I didn't like that pick, but they had to do it. They had to do it. I mean, it was just that time. They honestly should have went out and did something big in free agency. They should have did everything in their power to go get guys like what's his face? The dude from Minnesota, that's in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins. They should have did everything they could to go get him, but I mean, they're gonna be stuck and they just gonna continue to waste years on Larry Fitzgerald's prime. So, I mean, it's no sense in them really. They did what they had to do. But on the next team, the next team I got is the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore had a great ass draft. Like they got Hurst, they got Jackson. They got Mark Andrews. They were able to fucking land Orlando Brown in the third round. I'm not as big on Orlando Brown, but they start. I can see Baltimore gonna start trending up in the next year or so. Potentially this year, depending on Flacco, depending on what type of system they implement. If Gary Kubiak would have still been on that Baltimore team and he never would have left and he would have committed a little bit more time and had something implemented, then I think Baltimore would really be at the number two spot instead of being in like the three spot. Um, I really like that Anthony Everett. I had been clamoring for the Texans during the live stream to go get him, but the Texans weren't listening. I guess they didn't value him, and they valued this other punk that they got in fucking the seventh round, Jermaine Kelly over Anthony Everett, and it was just blasphemous. But Ozzie Newsome did a phenomenal. He was moving up and down. He was accumulating picks, and he had a great draft class for Baltimore. Let me see the next team we got. Next team we got. is Jacksonville. Man, these dudes right here is just loading up, bro. I want to say like Tavin Bryan was a good pick for them. DJ Chark was definitely a good pick for them, and the best pick for them, hands down, was Ronnie Harrison in the third round at pick 29. Now, I know when we made the pick at 68 and when we got Justin Reed, a couple of us kind of felt like Ronnie Harrison should have been in that spot, but with further review, he's a better prospect than Ronnie Harrison did, and they just loaded. They didn't even really need to do a whole lot, but him being the safety now, that strong safety, is definitely gonna help out dudes like Barry Church, and they got an enforcer back there alone, and then they still got dudes in the front and the back end. They got fucking Ramsey and Boye. They got fucking Telvin Smith. I know Paul Postlesny, he just retired and all of that little shit, but they still got a loaded front seven. Yannick Ngakwe. These dudes are fast. They can move. They got good technique. They play ferocious, man, and they're gonna end up causing some problems with us. And the fact that they had another decent ass draft, and I didn't think the Jaguars would be able to draft as good as they did, considering the fact that they were at the back end of each round, and they haven't been in that position in I don't know how long. And now that what was the GM name? Fucking damn, I forgot his name. His name slipped my mind. Um, um, Coughlin. Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin is building something for this team, man. He gonna make Jacksonville look good for quite a few years, and the fact that he came to the team and it was as loaded as it was, and they had all that goddamn money. I mean, that shit is just going. They're gonna be a problem. To say and just say that the Jacksonville we just gonna sweep them. That no, I don't see us just sweeping them. I mean, it just depends. It's gonna end up being on the quarterback and Fournette, depending on how they play and when we have to see them. So we could very well sweep them, but it's not likely. The next team I got is Miami. Miami, man. When Miami went up and got and they didn't even have to move up to go do this. The fact that Minka Fitzpatrick fell to them at pick 11 when we kept saying Minka should go here because there were so many teams at that point in time who could have used corners. And I didn't say no. It's not Blake Bortles. It's the fact that that defense is gonna be hounding. They O line is better. They got a solid running game, and if they end up using him the way that they used him last year, and they take the ball out of his hands to limit mistakes, and he starts learning more technique, then that's gonna pose a problem if he starts getting better. But I don't see him getting better, so we're just gonna have to wait and see when we start playing the games. And oh yeah, the Chargers had a great ass draft. I had them in the damn I had them as one of my top teams because they had got Derwin James and Wosu, Kazir White, and they got Scott Quisenberry, and I was feeling all of those picks for them. And Wosu, they kind of reached on him a little bit, but I can understand the logic. I can understand the logic for that pick, and they want to make sure that they got interior and they can keep holding that edge the way that they're doing with Melvin Ingram and Bosa. And why not have another viable option in Nwosu? He's raw, but I think with him having those type of dudes on the field along with him, he gonna be able to learn some solid technique, and that's what. And then they got a great coaching staff, so um, I can look forward to that. Let me see the next team. I think that was pretty much. Was that everybody? Yeah, I went through all the teams that fast. Oh yeah, yo. Oh, I forgot. I forgot. I was still on Miami. Um, the fact that they went up and got Mike Gesicki in the second round, that shit was huge. They've been needing a solid tight end forever. I mean, they tried Clay. They used to play for the Buffalo. He ain't been working out. Nobody that they really been having has been able to bail Tannehill out on third downs and shit like that. So they got to keep throwing the ball to Jarvis Landry when he was there. And the fact that they went out and they got Jerome Baker too in the third round at the ninth pick, and that was a good pickup. What's going on, Devontae Love? What's going on with it? Yeah, I mean, and a lot of teams they just ended up having a lot of great ass drafts, man. I mean, I had Cincinnati on here because they had ended up picking up Jesse Bates. Sam Hubbard and fucking Malik Jefferson. But when I looked at a couple of teams when I was going down the list on my NFL mobile app, and when I once I got to New England and the Giants, I was just like, man, I got to scratch off. But and then when I saw the Washington Redskins draft, I had to scratch off the Chargers when I saw that. When I was just like, because when I really think about the players that were picked and where they were picked and what's going on, bro, it ain't no problem. And when I think of where these guys were picked for each one of their teams, these teams got solid value and got like day one starters who are gonna end up making phenomenal strides for each one of their football teams. I really think I'm gonna end up probably doing teams that I think they're gonna end up being sleepers tomorrow, along with my the video of teams that had the worst drafts. I'm just gonna do two videos today. I just did one earlier. If y'all didn't catch that, go ahead and check that out. And yeah, Spitz is alive. He ain't been in the mix all day. We all got to remember we got to see these players on the field. I'm talking pure talent. I'm talking pure talent and dudes that I know that'll end up making a stride. Not dudes I think that's gonna do good. These guys I know that's gonna do. I know that's gonna do good. I'm not in the hope business. It ain't no shot to nobody, but all these dudes that I named that are on these teams, they're gonna perform. And when we go back and I'm going to track during the season, and we're going to keep track of all the guys that we got and all the guys that we passed up, and I'm going to keep that list, and I'm going to always remind everybody that I always saw that was talking all this, oh, Atkins, he going to make you eat crow and this and that. He ain't going to make me eat a goddamn thing because he's going to be a third option on this football team, and third options don't get no real play on this football team. That is a fact. It's been happening, and why is it not going to continue? Because we got a supposed new toy for Watson to play with. He's not going to be good enough, and he's not going to outplay Steven Anderson ever. And what's the question, Ferocious? Yeah, I like that. That the halfback from LSU. You talking about Geis? I like Kiki Kuti. I just hate the fact that we reached on him. We reached on him. We reached on him so high. We could have got Alex Cappa with the second pick in the third round. You know, and people was talking crazy, talking about we should have did this, and Martinez ranking was a good pick. But I just addressed all that in my last video, and you know I'm just gonna commit the time to this video. So if y'all want to see how I feel about every last one of those players, go check out that last video that I just did. I just streamed it like an hour ago. So, because I'm getting ready to close this video out, so I can go ahead and make a few phone calls and handle some business, go grab me something to eat before we do the roundtable tonight at 8 o'clock. What's y'all questions? I mean, about what teams do y'all feel? I want to know y'all thoughts. Like, what teams do y'all think they got the best value and had a really good draft? Because I want to hear y'all's opinions. If we passed on him, he wouldn't have been there. Yes, Kiki Kuti would have been there, bro. He was a 6, 7 round talent. You may not think this, but bro, the draft was falling the exact same way that the mock drafts were falling, and the mock drafts were very true. If not, they were far more accurate than the real NFL draft. You don't understand. Dudes that were first round talents were falling all the way to the third round for bullshit reasons. Dudes that were second round talents was falling to the second and fifth rounds. Dudes that were third round talents were falling to the sixth and seventh rounds. Kiki Kuti, before any draft, and the fact that he's 5'10", was not going to bode well for a lot of teams, and they not going to want to pick him up. Most of the guys that got picked up was 6 foot or above. It was very seldom a guy of his stature was getting picked up. Yes, Wink, but it's a fact a lot of players think they will be great. I'm not thinking though. I mean, we will see because they know, I'm not gonna fault dudes for getting injured. Injuries happen, so a dudes can't be bust if they can't get on the field and perform. The moment that I find out that they got great technique and that they produce and they make an impact on that football team, they can become a great player in my eyes. And even Spitz is a Texas Tech fan, and he said we reached on him big time. We reached on him easily by extra 2 to 3 rounds because you could easily got Kiki Kuti in the seventh round or one with one of those 6 round picks, and he would have definitely been an A in my book. And then our draft grade would have easily rose. I think I'm gonna do a draft grades video. I'm gonna go each team and talk about each team's picks versus just this top 10 list. But I'm definitely gonna delve off into that. And Kiki Kuti was not a need. He was not something that we needed. We still needed corner. We still needed depth at outside linebacker. We still needed. I mean, Jordan Atkins. We needed a better tight end than Jordan Atkins, and we could have got Mason Cole. We could have got Alex Cappa or Orlando Brown over Martinez Rankin. He was like a fourth round prospect, and we drafted him. He was like a fourth or fifth round prospect, and we drafted him in the third round. He's not as good as advertised. You know, I know in the last video, guys were trying to throw out the fact he had a great game against Georgia. What did he do against everybody else? Because maybe those type of players that he played were players he was able to dominate and play well against. But what is he going to do against speed rushers? What is he going to do against guys with great bull rushing hands and technique and violent hands? With guys with better bend? Because if we're going to be real, nobody on Georgia had great bend, not even Lorenzo Carter. That's one of the things that he needed to work on and finishing in plays. He was a great prospect. He has a lot of measurables and a lot of ways to impact the game, but his flattening to the quarterback was not one of his strong suits, and that's something that he has to develop with his hips. You know, loosen his hips at the next level. So whatever team that the Giants organization is definitely gonna be on the lookout for that, and I know they're gonna end up getting it right because they got a loaded ass football team. Let's see what else y'all talking about. Will Kuti. First off, he got to show that he can pick up. First off, this is what Kiki Kuti has to do before he can even come in here and replace anybody. First off, he has to show that he can maintain his same amount of play. He has to show that he can play special teams. He has to pick up some weight, or he's gonna get knocked out of games. Um, he has to be able to develop even more routes than what he already has if he's gonna play in the route. He has to be able to get deep crosses, and he has to learn NFL depths and coverages. If he can't do that, then he will not play slot with no Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien wants his slot receivers to know depth. He wants you to have solid hands, and he wants you to be able to finish routes and make plays in space. These are things that Kiki Kuti can do. He doesn't have the routes he can run are very crisp. He can run some routes, but he's not he's not gonna make a day one impact on this team. Will he find some time and will he get some time? Absolutely. Will he make some plays? I believe he will, but he's not gonna be what y'all think he's gonna be right off rip. Maybe in a year or two. Give him time. He's a player. I'm gonna say you're gonna have to give him some time. He was a good pick. Well, he's a good player. I just don't like where he was picked. Had we have a fifth, I could have you could have made an argument him being picked up in the fifth. But definitely he was worth a 6th round pick, and he would have been there. Trust me. Everybody who knows, who's been doing draft analysis and who's been paying attention to the draft, and especially with the way that receivers, corners, safeties, tight ends, and edge rushers winning this draft, trust me, he would have been there. If you don't think so, we'll never know now because we picked him up at number 4, so we don't know where he would have dropped. But nowhere on your board were you just thinking about Kiki Kuti and that the Houston Texans should go get him. If you believe that and you gonna come out and say this in the comment, you're lying to yourself and everybody else in the comment section. Do you think we should have drafted John Kevin if Rams hadn't snatched him a pick before ours? Honestly, bro, the people who I wanted was Duke Dawson, Lorenzo Carter. I wanted Alex Kappa. I wanted Anthony Avery if we couldn't get one of these corners. I wanted Troy Fumagalli, Ian Thomas, um, Quentin Meeks, potentially Deshaun Elliott or Armani Watts, depending on when we were going to pick up safety. We could have used other guys like if they would have went out and they would have got extra depth um, at the tackle spots. If we would have went out and got a running back, I wouldn't have tripped about that. I wouldn't have really tripped out about that. We ended up locking up Alfred Blue anyway, so um, that's how that situation was gonna go. But honestly, this team didn't do enough in the draft, and we already have a loaded football team. And he could have bolstered this roster way better with much better prospects who were left on the board, who had much better value, who were in the top 100 that should have been on this team. I made a point in my last video that honestly we left 2 first rounders. We potentially could have had 2 first rounders with our first 2 picks. Now I know most people probably wouldn't agree, but you got to think ahead of time because there's no guarantee that Honey Badger is going to resign with us next year. And depending on what happens to him, if he stays healthy, imagine a team that would have ended up having Justin Reed and Ronnie Harrison at the same time. And you still had viable options like Corey Moore and Andre Howell to still be a service, in certain schemes. And how I pitched it is that you could have brought Andre Howell down to blitz, or you could have had Harrison to come down to blitz, or Harrison to come down to play in the slot, or Honey Badger's up top, or Honey Badger is in the he's at the strong safety spot, or he's coming down and playing in the dime. It's so many things that Romeo Cornell could have done with a squad that was loaded like that in the back end, that it would have been crazy, and it hands down would have been the best safety trio in the league. And I don't think there's ever been a safety trio. Safety duos exist, but I've never heard of a safety trio ever in my life. And it would have been a great situation, in case you wanted to move on from Honey Badger and just see what you had in Justin Reed and what. But I would have opposed that he gets signed, because his type of talent, and as young as Honey Badger is, he can still produce in this league for another 7, 8 years as long as he maintains his body. Ronnie in the money back spot. Exactly. He could be all over the place. And you mean to tell me you still got dudes like Whitney Merciless, Jadavian Clowney, J.J. Watt. You can find a way to blitz Bernard McKinney, and then you got Ronnie Harrison coming off of the edge behind somebody. That's just, come on, man. And everything I'm saying, I guarantee you the Jaguars are gonna do, because they still got Tayshaun Gibson, they got Barry Church, now they got Ronnie Harrison, along with a ferocious pass rush, and they have one of the best corner tandems in the league. So the only thing that would have really helped out, um, the only thing I could say that really would have helped out, if the Jaguars were really thinking, they should have drafted Isaiah Oliver or Josh Jackson or somebody like that to be the third corner in their spot. If they would have did that, then I would say hands down they win in the division. It's not, we can't compete with them. We can't. If they would have did that, they hands down they would have won the division. They would have won the division, to me, because that was far too much potency in the fact that Josh Jackson or somebody like that can make too many plays. They it's Jesus. What will it take for a better draft this year would have definitely have done that. But I will say Deshaun Watson and Romeo Cornell being um, back in the fold can make us contenders. As long as he's healthy, as long as no major injuries happen, and guys play with technique and they play sound football and they complement each other at every single level, including special teams, and that's going to have to increase dramatically as well. We can't be at the back ends of, you know, kick return and punt return. Kick return average and shit like that, and not flipping field position in a way that it benefits the offense to score touchdowns. I want the easiest time for Deshaun Watson, not the hardest. I do not want him to work hard. I want him to have the easiest time while he's going to be in the Texas uniform. And Brian Gaine is making his job hard already with this piss poor draft class. We ended up getting some nice undrafted free agents who I'm going to delve into, but honestly, he still didn't do enough. It was plenty of holes that he could have filled. Dudes like Kareem Jackson would have definitely been off of this team, and we'd be saving money right now if we would have went out and got guys like Anthony Everett. Because where are you going to find a spot for Kareem? Honestly, where are you going to find a spot for Kareem on this team? Where's he going to play? Is he just going to play against tight ends? Is he going to be in a situational role? I mean, the possibilities are endless for him. Or you could convert him to a safety full time, but it's no need for that because we went out and got a safety. Is that yes, he is, and you see what I'm saying, Wise? It's no reason. It's no reason for us not to be making these same decisions, and we have a much better organization than Jacksonville with a better quarterback. And at the end of the day, we're still making situations and not thinking why we don't want to dominate division where it's no question. See, we leaving questions on the board. You asking questions like, will we be contenders? Will we contend? We wouldn't be asking these questions if we had a better draft and if you would have done what the roundtable suggested. We did our due diligence, and the Houston Texans scouting department didn't. Brian Gaine didn't do it, and he had months in advance to go ahead and get this done. He knew who the prospects were coming out because he was still employed by the Buffalo Bills, and he was in charge of free agency in terms of, and he was in their scouting department. So he has no reason, and he gets no pass from me for having a piss poor draft, especially having been in this organization just 10, 12 months prior. I mean, y'all can give him a pass if you want. You're entitled to do that, but I'm not. I know things about this man and shit that he's done in this organization that's already put us back 2 years that he was responsible for, and that but everybody blamed Rick Smith for it, and it wasn't his fault at all. So I'm not gonna delve into that. If y'all want to know more about that logic and y'all want to know about what I'm talking about, just go back to a few videos and you'll see them. They'll be entitled Brian Game, and it'll be such and such, and you might just learn something that you didn't know about the Houston Texas franchise that's been plaguing us for the last 2 to 3 years. So that's my video. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put some stuff in the description box once this video gets finished uploading. I appreciate everybody that came through. If y'all do me a favor, if y'all didn't hit that like button, go ahead and hit it. Um, and make sure that y'all check out the roundtable with Honcho tonight at 8 o'clock. Make sure y'all there and stay safe. And we out.